My name is Lachlan Fleetwood. I hold a PhD in history from the University of Cambridge, and I'm currently Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellow here at the Käte Hamburger Colleague on Global Disconnections at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich. So I'm a historian, primarily of science, geography, empire, and environment, and I work on South and Central Asia, especially in the 19th and early 20th centuries. My first book was published last year by Cambridge University Press with the title Science on the Roof of the World, Empire and the Remaking of the Himalaya. And it was an attempt to offer a new way of thinking about science's global history, as well as how geographical features like mountains can serve as scales for new histories of empire. My current project, though, is a history of climatic and environmental sciences. So the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, warns in quite stark terms that many long inhabited parts of the world are now on course to become uninhabitable. While the large-scale effects of anthropogenic climate change are, of course, new, divisions of the world into habitable and uninhabitable regions are, however, not, and have long shaped human relationships. So my current research examines a key part of this longer history, and especially the way that imperial scientists and naturalists tried to measure and define the limits of habitability around the turn of the 20th century. And the focus is on Central Asia, which became key to scientific debates about environmental stability and climate change. And so, among other things, I investigate the sand-buried cities of the Taklamakan Desert, the mysterious so-called wandering lake of Lop Nor, as well as theories of desiccation in the Pamir Mountains. And here I'm also especially interested in environmental determinism. Determinism is an idea with a long and pervasive history, and it essentially is the idea that human characteristics or potential is shaped by environmental factors. And these took on new forms around the turn of the 20th century, where based on their experience in Central Asia, geographers like the American Ellsworth Huntington used their investigations into climate to develop new and racist theories that sought to explain European or Anglo-North American imperial dominance. And this research matters ultimately because we see echoes of these sorts of determinist thinking today, for example, in the way the media debates the issues around climate change and migration. So my project is closely connected with the theme of global disconnectivity. And at the broadest level, it seeks to explain the various ways that European empires sought to impose global norms in science, geography, and environment. And I'm particularly interested in the way that the concept of the global itself came to function as a powerful scale and tool of empire. So the concept of global disconnectivity is important here, as well as conversations with friends at the colleague, especially as I ultimately aim to show that these seemingly universal or now taken for granted geographical categories actually have much longer histories. So whether it's in showing that altitude above sea level is the category that makes some mountains matter more than others, or the limits of habitability and the way that they were developed in their imperial context, I really want us to show that these seemingly natural or inevitable categories actually have histories, and as a result we might be able to think about how they shape our geographical imagines in the future differently. Another way that my research is closely connected with the concept of disconnectivity is that in recovering the roles of those traditionally not given center stage in the histories of science and empire. And so this includes the hidden histories of the guides, the brokers, and the porters that European naturalists and surveyors always depended on, whether that's surveying in the high mountains of the Himalaya or the arid uplands of Central Asia, as well as those people whose lives across empire aren't usually centered in, especially in the history of science, a tendency to focus on the biographies of major scientific savants, people like Alexander von Humboldt or Charles Darwin. And so ultimately, central to all of my work is telling the disconnected stories of those sometimes overlooked in more traditional global connected histories of empire.